are you listening to? Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn.
Welcome to Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. We will be joined tonight by Representative Cheryl Acton, who is going to be talking to us a bit about a bill that she has that just came out.
Something super scary.
Super
that
scary.
May happen.
Yeah. If things like this bill don't deal with it, we could have issues. And so HB 431 is the bill that she is going to discuss with us, social credit scores. And then I think we're going to talk a little bit about where things are at this point in the session. And so we'll turn now to Representative Acton. Representative, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Carolyn and Kim.
Can I say something real quickly, though? So I think most people know that I was former representative of west side of West Jordan. And with the redistricting, I am now not going to be represented by Jordan Tusher, but I will be represented by Cheryl. And so I am so excited about that. And, you know, it's just an absolute comfort level that I love Jordan. And so I was nervous if I lose Representative Tusher as my representative, but, you know, Cheryl is another one of those just reliably conservative legislators who, it's a little bit quiet, but boy, you bring the issues, man. I mean, she jumped right in with the prohibition on the early abortions, which got her a name and got her on the national stage for freshmen aren't supposed to do big things. That's what people told me too. But definitely a courageous legislator that was recognized that she came in and had stuff to do, work to do, and she came in originally on a coin toss.
I remember that.
Yes.
Special
Very
election.
exciting.
Special election. So it was a small group of delegates, and it came down to a tie. So
and she does all of that with a smile, always.
Yes.
I never see her not smiling.
Right, exactly.
It's so much fun, isn't it?
So
it's usually fun.
Yeah, good. So how long have you been in, and would you tell us a little bit about your district?
This is my 5th session currently. So, and my district, it is West Jordan. Well, right now we're in that cusp of the new redistrict area. So currently I'm kind of in the middle of West Jordan off to the west. So running actually from the Jordan River out to 56th West. It's kind of shaped like Tennessee between 6600 South and 7800 South. But now I will be from Bangerter Highway out to U111 and from 66 South down to about 102nd South, Old Bingham. So, and it's really our area. West Jordan is very much, it's where families live. And so it's a great area, and it's a great place to raise a family, which I like. So
good. Okay, so Representative, would you tell us about your HB 431, your social credit score bill, and kind of the genesis of the bill?
And pretend we don't know anything about it, because I'm getting caught up on some of those things.
It's funny because a lot of people do not know much about social credit scores. I know you guys do, but this bill came to me actually soon after the session started. I was just reading through some emails from constituents, and one of the very first constituents that I met when I was running for election the first time as a special election, he asked me, "Are you going to do something about this? This bill just passed in New Hampshire to prevent social credit scores. Are you going to run that in Utah?" And I looked it over, and within minutes I responded, "Yes, absolutely I am. This is fantastic. I mean, we have to do something." So I started doing the research. I immediately opened a bill file, and a policy analyst was working with me to figure out which states' policies we would like to incorporate and so forth. But it's a bill. Social credit scores are not currently, supposedly, we're told, used against individuals, but we are seeing these ESG scores or ESG index that's being used against businesses and corporations to determine how environmentally conscious or social justice consciousness and also governmental compliance.
So that's the
How the
ESG part.
That's the ESG. And social credit score would be a way for an entity to assess whether or not someone is worthy to participate in the economy and have any of the social advantages like participation in, I don't know, government or being able to use a business or being able to get a loan, for example, based upon how environmentally and social justice and compliant they are. And so it's just totally un-American. And surprisingly, there are 3 states that actually believe that everyone should be given a social credit score. I mean, their legislatures do. Those are California, Massachusetts, and Illinois, very liberal states. They think that everyone should be judged according to those things. And I just don't believe that a number should ever attach to a person determining, how much access they have to everything. I mean, I think it's un-American.
Well, so when you say, okay, can we take those apart, like environmental or social? So you mentioned social. So what would be a possible social indicator that could get me a score, positive or negative?
Maybe you're contributing to the wrong charities.
Okay.
Maybe you send money to the Canadian truckers.
Okay, so other than Antifa hacking, Give, Send, Go for Canadian truckers, how would they even know what I contribute to?
Well, much like, how the credit reporting agencies go into your history, they know how much money you owe to whom, and, but this would be, and that would still be permissible, of course, for credit situations. But there would be companies available that even some of the big 3 credit reporting companies may go into this line of work where they would, determine, it looks like they made charitable contributions to Republican candidates or to this church or, I'm not exactly sure, but we do know that the federal government had a bill that they were trying to pass. The $600 transactions would have been reported to the government. So it's privacy is a real issue now that we're all technologically advanced and everything's at our fingertips. Including that sort of information would not be too difficult to find.
I had a conversation with somebody today about this very issue. And it's somebody who is not supportive of this legislation and actually has good reasons. They see the problem, but has some concerns that I think over time I would hope could be worked out after the session. But one of the things that they brought up or that they asked is kind of like, where will all of this behavioral data come from? Who has that? Who's even gathering it? I think all of us know it's being gathered every single day. And if nobody else, the government is. And we're constantly, in fact, one of the arguments was, well, conservatives have been able to successfully beat back these efforts by, woke leftists, frankly, in Washington to have leftist activists oversee our banking system and oversee a lot of these areas where they would have access to this information and could implement rules that would give them more access to this information. And my concern and what I kind of expressed to that is, I get it, and that's great, but the fact that we have to keep beating it back tells you right there's a problem. And all we need is to be unsuccessful one time at beating it back. And it's over. It's in place.
It's over. It's all out. Well, and which is why these upcoming elections are so very important, because Congress came pretty close to passing that banking legislation that would have
That's
given
right.
the IRS the ability to look at anybody's bank account and transactions who had $10,000 or more
A year.
a year in transactions. And so that would have opened that, wide open. But yeah, the fact that that almost happened is so scary that these elections do matter. So on the environmental piece, is this things like your carbon footprints and things like that Congress also would like to pass?
Yes, well, potentially that is something that they do judge sectors of the economy on: decarbonization and land use issues. And the number of, you name a leftist cause, and there could be a judgment made against or for an individual that would give them, adverse consequences or perhaps even preferential treatment. Because of their social credit score.
So I think Fosmu has a comment that he wants
to
interject into our conversation.
Well,
Join us.
I was just going to say that when you think about the information that banks often are privy to, think about the number of vehicles you own, what type of vehicles they are. If the banks, if you have a loan out, the bank has the title. They know everything about that car. If they know that your truck only gets 16 miles to the gallon because it's a truck that you're going to be pulling trailers with, that could affect your credit score, your ESG score. And if they know how big your house is, and they can see how much you're paying out each month for your natural gas bill, that sort of thing. They're privy to all this information, and who knows how that's going to affect that scoring.
Yeah. Well, and I drove a Suburban for a long time, but nobody ever gave me credit for the fact that we'd moved 7 humans in that. and I would get probably docked for having 5 kids and docked for driving a Suburban, even though my Suburban hauling a family of 7 was probably more efficient than people riding buses. Anyway.
True.
I digress.
True. It's a good point. I've never heard that defense for a Suburban. But that's
So tell us, I have a story about how we got Suburbans and such kind of vehicles, but I don't want to take too much time. Maybe we'll have this discussion afterward. So tell us, Representative, have you had much response from constituents on this since the bill came out? It was just last week, right? End of the week?
right. It was finally released, I believe, on Thursday.
Okay.
And
So-
I have heard from a lot of constituents already about it. And when I've spoken about it in public places and meetings, a great response. People realize
Good.
it's un-American. That's all I can say about it. It's not the way that a person, you shouldn't be able to judge a person according to their behavior that really has no effect on you.
Right.
Ideologically like that. So.
And you know what? I know that the argument from the other side would be, well, it does have an effect on me, right? Because it impacts society. But here's the thing. That's the same argument that conservatives got shot down about 30 or 40 years ago. Your choice to abuse drugs, your choice to have children out of wedlock, your choice, right, to do all of these things that have led to what we've seen as really the destruction of our culture and society in a great many ways. And now our tax dollars are going to save those children who were put into these horrible circumstances. We were told that that was none of our business. And I get it, right? With freedom, there's a certain amount of liberty that people have to make these decisions. But don't tell me it doesn't impact me. And one of those keeps coming to my mind. We were told that gay marriage would have no impact on our lives. Remember this? We were told this for 2 decades at least. Why do you care? It won't impact your marriage. And now we're being told, sit down, shut up, don't preach it. It's hate speech if you even say that if you don't accept our way of life and preach it right beside us, right? When we don't agree with it.
And so is this, I mean, what is the impact of these ESG scores? Does that mean I may be denied a loan, that I may have a higher interest rate? Or, I mean, what is the actual effect of ESG scores?
Well, in some industries, for example, now speaking of industries, they are trying to shut down industries through their ESG scores. For example, the firearm manufacturers, even payday lenders, because they've decided that payday lenders should not exist. So they are not given an opportunity to borrow money to sustain their business, or to conduct, or even in some cases to have banking services.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to operate as a business without banking services.
So, oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
I was just going to say that's now on an individual level. Yeah, it would affect lending, potentially hiring, firing, but a lot of it is banking. Or it could even be a situation where we don't want you to use our business because we don't approve of your social credit.
So where are the bankers on this? The banking industry and credit union industry, where are they on this?
They are very, very leery of it. And I am trying to take all of their concerns into account, but they're very concerned about, because each bank, apparently, I was just speaking to someone in the banking industry today. Each bank has different criteria and use different services and so forth. And what my bill would do, it would say, you cannot use those services. You cannot use a service that assesses a number to a human being in terms of their social credit. Of course, you can continue to use a financial credit score and a background check in the traditional method. But just to have like a 60 out of 100, and I'm sorry, we only extend credit to someone who is 70 out of 100 or more, that kind of arbitrary shorthand designation like that would not be allowed with this bill. It really just preserves everyone's right to just be who they are and live their lives and not have to modify their behavior to conform to some sort of, they use social credit scores already in China and have since 2014 extensively.
So, financial credit scores are already kind of problematic, right? I mean, I've got young adult children who are trying to make good future and credit decisions, and when they come to us, when they first enter this world and say, well, I can't do anything if I have no credit.
Right.
But they actually, I mean, we kind of Dave Ramsey our kids. And so they know that credit can really be, having credit extensions can really be not a good thing either. But then they also realize quickly they can't buy the car, they can't get the loan if they don't have credit, or they can't buy the house. But so I would want to know if my bank is okay to do this with me. Like, I want to start outing the institutions that think this is a good idea to do that level of investigation on their clients. I mean, because I would switch a bank instantly.
Yeah.
If my bank or credit union supported that.
Well, you guys remember, you guys may have heard that the My Pillow guy, Mike Lundell, was canceled by his bank. They consider him a reputational risk.
Reputational risk.
What is that?
Oh, let me tell you.
Reputational risk.
Well, and Representative Acton probably knows this, but so maybe she should be answering this, right?
No, you go ahead and explain it, Carolyn.
But this came about from the federal government, right? So the federal government came down on the banks a number of years ago. And one of my friends who works in the banking industry at a pretty high level told me that a lot of these regulations came in after TARP, right? They were hand in hand with TARP, but they've stayed in place apparently because of FDIC. and the hook that's there from the FDIC insurance. But that these regulations came into place where banks had to start vetting their customers for reputational risk. And it was, correct me if I'm getting anything wrong on this, Representative, but it was because of concerns about terrorism. And I'll tell you, I said to a banking lobbyist today, but according to this current administration, if I speak out at a school board meeting, I am a terrorist. So I am a reputational risk to a
Okay,
bank.
but so how does anybody know where Mike Lindell banks? And I would
No, the
imagine
bank did it. The bank just did it.
right, but so if they're concerned that they'll lose
Oh, I see what
customers.
you're saying.
If
Yeah.
they if customers know Bank X loans and Mike Lindell loans,
No, the reputational risk thing, it isn't, it's more about federal oversight than it is about public reputation.
Yeah, it has to do with terrorism. Apparently, a bank can actually even be closed by the federal government if it's found out that they have aided in some way a terrorist act, even unwittingly. You know, they have to kind of keep a close eye on all of their clients and know them well enough to know that they're not engaged in
Yeah.
terrorist activity.
so we need to talk about the Department of Homeland Security's latest sort of order or notice that captures a whole new group of concerning citizens.
Yeah.
So when you start creating these umbrella policies
Yes.
that are broadly defined and in the eye of the Biden administration, behold it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is so dangerous because, again, language has been so manipulated by the left that we speak words and we're speaking past each other because all of society knows what these definitions are, and Democrats apparently don't. They just make up their own. And they use these words in very manipulative ways. People go along with it because, of course, we don't want terrorism. Of course, we don't want racism. Well, what they didn't tell you was racism means you're on the right, no matter what color you are. And terrorism means you don't agree with the Biden administration. Who knew?
So Cheryl, where's the bill? Representative Acton, where's the bill?
It is currently, it's going to be assigned to business and labor. And I believe we'll get to committee this week, not tomorrow, but I believe on Thursday. Okay. So it has a fiscal note, which is 0. I've really simplified it. I don't know. I mean, there are some people on business and labor that may oppose, that don't like any kind of restrictions on any kind of business. But I think this is something that, I think this is a way to save banks even from themselves, because they're having to go down this road because of federal laws. And if enough states band together, right, it won't be practical for the federal government to impose these laws. But there are 6 states that have already said we're not going to allow social credit scores in one form or another.
This seems like the year of our Utah legislature creating state safeguards against some federal policies, which all day long bring it. I mean, absolutely, that's our role. And
as soon as we step up and start putting real money toward it, I'll believe it, though. Right? Yeah. Until then, I we can say it, we can do things like this, but if we as a state are still tied to the federal government out of necessity in all these ways, I think we just lay down and roll over when they say, oh, you want to do that? We're pulling our money. That's my big concern.
So true. I mean, we've had legislators refuse to vote for something because we might lose the All-Star game, so.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. We might not make some money from a team coming here for a playoff or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. That's not how we, but
Yeah.
Okay, well, how do people
Sure.
find you, connect with you?
Oh, I do have CherylActon.com is my website. But of course, you can just do a contact form on the legislative website and send me an email, or cacton@le.utah.gov. I'd love to hear people's experience. If anyone has experiences being canceled or shut down by a bank or hiring situation or any kind of discrimination that they've suffered because of normal activity, legal behavior, it's unacceptable that this is, something that we have to defend against.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for addressing it. Thank you for listening to your constituents and being willing to seek solutions. One quick last question. Whether this bill passes or not, is it the end of the road for you on this issue?
Oh, no. We've already discussed with banks and everyone that we are going to do interim study on it. Just find ways that we can safeguard Utahns from whatever may be coming.
Okay.
We're not done. Not even, it's just kind of the beginning, I'm afraid, of this one. So,
Okay. Well, you have a lot of work ahead of you.
yes. And thank you for your help, both of you,
Thanks.
spreading the word.
Yes, we will
Thanks.
continue doing that. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you for your work. Well,
Thanks a lot.
The
See
thing
you.
I was thinking about too is we were at the Capitol today to see Representative Ken Ivory's bill pass,
Yeah.
the federalism bill. So when we're talking about, sometimes this year the legislature is putting those safeguards in place as a safeguard against the federal government.
Right.
And the fact that we have to start from a place that those lines have even been blurred at all.
For
That
decades.
For decades. And that the federal government has even tried to impose some things that it has, that then we have to be more
but-
defensive.
But we let them, right? It's
Yeah.
we said, oh, there's money attached to this. We'll take the money.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We'll go along with it. How bad could it get?
Right.
Right? How much of a tyrant could we ever get in Washington, D.C.? That wouldn't happen. Right. So I do think, and to the point of Representative Acton's bill and a whole lot of other things. I didn't get a chance to ask her this, but she broached it a little bit, Doran did. Fosmu did. And that is with someone did, whatever. We saw under the Obama administration an attempt to cut off financial services, period, to those in the firearms industry, right? And when that was unsuccessful, they started down that road, and they were starting to cause pain for people. But eventually it was beaten back. And when that was unsuccessful, I think they just figured this was the way to approach it, right? This keeps happening. When government and where government can't act, we will feed these ideas to private actors. They can always make money off of these ideas in the process, right? If you have ESG rating agencies, you got a whole new business. And you have a couple guys well connected with the government who start those up, and you're loaded, right?
Well, and it really is, though, ultimately a way to suppress speech you disagree
Absolutely.
with, positions you disagree with.
Yep.
It's a way to
The
punish
flow
your
of money.
enemies.
Yep.
And so what I think about is for how long, for decades, you've had people sort of sounding the alarm about data privacy, about list generation,
Yeah.
about government having the information that they have. And sometimes those people have been regarded as they're conspiracy theories,
yeah.
and they're the black helicopters and the tinfoil hats, and yet look where we are. That we could be assigned a score that evaluates our relationship with environment, social, and
And
governmental.
it's
Holy cow.
happening to businesses already, right? And when you look at, for those who would say that this is an overwrought fear and that we really are still conspiracy theorists. Look to the north. And we literally have a government claiming an emergency and shutting down people's bank accounts because politically they are standing up to their government. You don't have to like
Also
what they're
calling
doing.
it terrorism.
Yeah, yes.
Also calling it terrorism.
You don't have to like it, but if I do remember correctly, all of the people complaining about blocked roads now were cool with blocked roads when it was their guys
yeah.
in the roads. So don't even give me that. If appealing to your government for a redress of your grievances, it now makes you a terrorist.
Right.
And I understand this is not the United States of America, but I don't know that you could find many other countries in the world who mirror us more than Canada.
So I'm going to prop up War Room this morning. This is February 22nd. The morning edition of War Room had Naomi Wolf. You've got to hear what she has to say. Where Canada goes, if we are not extremely vigilant, it's coming this way, and we've seen it. And for whatever exceptionalism we have as Americans, Canada's a pretty free country too, and this
That's
happened
exactly
to them.
right.
But here's the other thing we also got to see today. We got to see Representative Walt Brooks on another area of data privacy and information privacy is the prohibition on vaccine passports.
Yeah.
With ridiculous counter arguments on the floor. Like absolutely. Like I'm listening to some of the people debate against this bill, even offered up the substitute where I thought, you're saying words. You're saying words that mean something, but that's not what they really like. What you're proposing is not really it. And unfortunately, there was a member that I regard very highly that spoke against the bill, whose arguments were just unfounded.
Yes, I know exactly the ones.
And I was really disappointed to hear his words, and there was a very loud, audible gallery of spectators' reaction to his comments. They were very unfortunate. That came out of his mouth because he's just
and I was surprised by it. But and he usually does very, very good work, right? But let me just say, and he's a logical, rational person too.
Yes.
But let me just say, I'm fascinated by this idea that not having vaccine passports gives you the right to make other people sick.
No, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, but just wait a minute. We've always had the right to make other people sick. And we've talked about this. New York, and I read a headline a few weeks ago that California either did it or was considering the same thing. And that is decriminalizing intentionally and knowingly having sex with someone without telling them you have AIDS.
Infecting, knowingly, intentionally infecting another person. Which is a life sentence. It's not. Correct. It's not necessarily a death sentence like it was in the 80s, 90s, but it is definitely a new life for someone who contracts this disease, and
that's knowing.
But so I mean, I'm telling you, like I feel like it's in my right, and this was recognized today as a business. If you're coming in and there's some body fluid spilling from you, and you're bleeding, or there's mucus or whatever, but if you are clearly symptomatic of some disease, or you've got, I don't know what, possibly bleeding from your eyes, I might ask you to not come in, and you would be fine and justifiable. And so that's not the stuff we're talking about.
Correct.
But for this one representative, I just don't want to say his name because I have such great regard for him. That for him to compare, that we somehow have the right to just go about society and infect unless we have passports, that's not it. No, I mean,
because we do know. I hate using this argument, but I'm going to for a moment, because vaccine passports are wrong, even if the vaccine is effective at keeping you from contracting and spreading the disease. So that's the field on which I like to have this, a philosophical one. No, a principled one. But the fact of the matter is, we all know it's not effective at keeping you from getting and spreading the disease, and may make it easier for you to spread the disease because you are less symptomatic, which I think makes you more dangerous.
Well, yeah, and that
So
is
don't
what
use
that's
that
what,
argument
we
with
did
me.
find with the COVID
Yes.
vaccines is the recipient has a higher viral load in their nasal cavities, but less symptomatic.
But
So
fewer
they
symptoms.
and that's why they're spreading.
They are more dangerous.
Right. So
If that's the argument you want to use.
right.
We can.
Well, we pick and choose arguments, don't we?
Yeah,
pick and choose
apparently
data.
so.
Anyways, good day on the hill.
It was a good day on the hill. Anything else? I feel like those are really the big things today, and
are big
there
things.
were some good wins.
So we're going to come back next episode, and we're going to be talking about a little bit deeper on the donor privacy thing that happened with Brian Schott going around and confronting donors whose information was stolen and
Yeah.
disclosed. So, so we're going to come back and talk about that because that's big. That's important.
And it's really ticked off a lot of people. And I think, so inappropriate. I don't even know how that's a story. Exercising your First Amendment rights, the reasons why, 10 reasons why, whatever. What kind of article, legitimate article do you really
But you
write
don't
out
pick
of
up the
that
phone
one?
and call a donor and ask them to justify their political speech
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, no.
Brian Schott.
That's right. Especially since we all know where that's coming from anyway, right? It was meant to be harassment, I think, and it certainly turned out
It
that
always
way.
is. I mean, it
Yeah.
chills speech.
It chills speech.
So there's another episode, and great work that Representative Acton is doing.
Yeah.
So we'd thank you again for joining us for another episode of Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. You can find us all over the place, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Please give us a subscribe and a follow, and we love the comments that we're getting from you too. So so let us know what you think, what you'd like to talk about, and we'll consider bringing some new items to the podcast. And it's fun so far, and things they're pretty fun in the legislature. Pay attention, come back and listen to us in these last couple of weeks because things are going to come fast. But
Yes.
thanks so much for listening.